Getting married is signing up to have the same fight over and over and over again as long as you both shall live. Can I get an amen? Anyone who has that experience? Same fight over and over again. And so we find that the work of relationship is not to stop having the fight, but it is to have the fight in a healthier way, to try to find a way through it, hopefully to grow and to forgive and to move on until you have the fight again. This is true in families, this is true with best friends, I think, and it is true in partnership. I'll often tell couples in premarital conversations that whatever fights are their fights, that they should make sure that they're choosing to have these fights over and over and over again for the rest of their lives. Did I say that to you guys? Yeah, I said that to Eliza when Eliza was getting married to Ripley. I share this advice because this is the advice that was given to me, and so far it's pretty much panned out. In my marriage, one of the repeated fights we have centers around spoons, and particularly the spoons that I leave everywhere around the house. The basic situation happens like this. I make a cup of coffee in the kitchen, and I stir a little sugar into my mug, but I know that sugar doesn't always fully dissolve when I stir it right away, and sometimes my coffee needs an additional stir a couple of minutes later to avoid the problem of having 3/4 of my coffee be a little bit too bitter and then the final quarter be like a sugar slurry. Does anyone else have that problem with their coffee? Does anyone else carry the spoon with you, for the whole cup of coffee just so you can keep re-stirring? One might say that's ridiculous, but that's what I do with my coffee in the morning. And so instead of putting my spoon immediately in the dishwasher, it comes with me wherever I take my cup of coffee, which is often to the living room, sometimes it's to the bedroom. And I do my second stir a few minutes later, then I put my spoon down, and usually I completely forget about the spoon. And then all too often I get up again, I bring my mug to the kitchen for another cup, and lo and behold, my spoon is in the other place that I was just sitting, and so I get a new spoon, and I do it all over again for my second cup of coffee. And by the end of the morning, there might be multiple spoons in multiple places around the house, even though my coffee cup might be in the dishwasher, and I have completely forgotten about all of the spoons. They're really small. I've moved on about my day. My partner, Kai, does not forget about my spoons. He is infuriated by my spoons. He finds my discarded spoons everywhere. Sometimes it feels like there are no clean spoons because I've just discarded the dirty ones around the house after my double stirring of my coffee. And so in the evening, particularly when we're tired or when our blood sugar is low or when our bodies are sore, we have the spoon fight. And Kai completely reasonably asks me why I can't bring my spoons back to the kitchen when I'm done with them. It only takes 5 seconds to bring your spoon back to the kitchen, he says. Did you not see that dirty spoon that you left right there, he says? And I, maintaining appropriate perspective on the importance of one dirty spoon in our living room compared to war and climate change and grief and suffering in the world, blow it off as not a big deal. And at that point, the spoon fight often becomes about more than spoons. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those of you who've ever been in any kind of friendship or relationship with a family member or partner, becomes about more than spoons, and it spirals up into something bigger. Most relationships, I think, have a repeated fight like this one, whether it's a partnership or another kind of close relationship. And of course, we all have those things that we do to irritate our partners or our close people. Kai has an equal number of things that he does that make me feel the way that he feels about my spoons. And sometimes we even make progress. We've had this fight for so many years now, I actually mostly bring my spoons into the kitchen. There's probably one day a week where I forget to bring my spoons to the kitchen. And I'm looking out at you all and realizing that there's a spoon on my bedside table right now because I forgot to do it this morning. Now, when Kai and I are tired and our blood sugar is low and our bodies are sore, instead of fighting about spoons, we have shifted to fighting about laundry or the kids' bedtime or whatever other domestic annoyance presents itself to us at that day. Sometimes the fights about bigger things, problems that arise from deeper places of hurt within us, or clashes of style or perspective or values, those are harder to bring into balance after letting them spiral out of control than the spoon fight. And those fights certainly happen for most people and for us. What I know is that regardless of the scale of the conflict, usually fights resolve when, in my relationship, when we show appreciation and empathy for each other, when we get in touch with whatever shame or anxiety or sense of powerlessness is truly going on within us, and then when we apologize to each other and mean it. Usually we only find peace within ourselves when we can forgive each other. At sundown this evening, Jews in this congregation and around the world will begin Yom Kippur, which is also known as the Day of Atonement. It's the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Yom Kippur is an annual ritual of right relationship, a time when Jews look honestly at the places within their lives where they have broken promises or caused harm, so that they can seek to repair the harm that they have caused, seek to ask for forgiveness, and it's also a time for forgiving others and for the ways that they have caused us harm. An inherent part of being human in relationship with other humans is making mistakes and is causing harm. And so the work of repairing this harm, of fixing and forgiving mistakes, is incredibly difficult, which is probably why most religious traditions have some kind of ritual around that process of forgiveness. Certainly there are teachings in every major religious tradition, there are practices to help us learn how to forgive and repair harm. And so though I am not Jewish, I find Yom Kippur and Jewish rituals of right relationship to be very powerful. And so I seek to honor this holiday kind of in my own way each year. I preach on something related to forgiveness and Yom Kippur every year on this Sunday, and we renew our congregational covenant and sing together the Litany of Atonement that we just sang. I'm told that I told this ridiculous story about spoons in my relationship, not because these small annoyances and fights about the dishes are really what Yom Kippur is about, or really what the difficult work of forgiveness is about. When you think about a place in your life that you have caused harm or have been harmed, a place that needs repair and forgiveness, my guess is that you're thinking about something bigger than spoons, right? Unless you left the house this morning without repairing whatever spoon fight you had with your family members at home or roommates. Maybe someone who abused you comes to mind when you think about the difficult work of repairing relationship. Maybe you regret hurting someone when you were experiencing addiction or the ramifications of trauma. Maybe you wrestle with how repair and forgiveness can take place in the massive problems in our society. For repair and forgiveness how is it possible for slavery, for climate change, for war, for oppression? The big harms in our life are usually not the ones about spoons, but most of the time finding peace within ourselves, whether it's in the wake of this kind of small household irritation or some massive source of trauma, the freedom, the peace comes with forgiveness. Forgiveness is the surest route to finding freedom from the chains of anger and irritation and from repeating or reliving that harm again and again. From prisons of bitterness and corrosive resentment. As author Maya Angelou has said, it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody, she says. And she said this in an interview with Oprah while talking about the person who assaulted her as a child. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive someone else. So this year, as Yom Kippur has been approaching, I have been thinking in particular about the Kol Nidre. The service on the eve of Yom Kippur is usually called the Kol Nidre, but technically the Kol Nidre is a complicated legal formulation that is sung in the synagogue right before sundown on Yom Kippur. It's sort of like the last bit of business to be done before entering into the Holy Day of Atonement that begins at sundown. And you heard John B. play a version of the melody of the Kol Nidre, the Ashkenazi melody of the Kol Nidre earlier. And in fact, I think most people would say that the Kol Nidre is known more for its melody than the meaning of the actual legal declaration. Technically, Kol Nidre means all vows, all vows. And the Aramaic text declares that the vows and the commitments and oaths and promises that we may make to God in the coming year are hereby null and void. Not our promises to other human beings, our promises to God that are to come in the coming year. Or some contemporary Jews might say our promises to ourselves in the coming year are hereby null and void, a preemptive undoing of our vows to the holy and our vows to ourselves. That's complicated, right? Preemptively saying anything I vow in the coming year is null and void. And though this declaration has been part of the traditional Yom Kippur services for several centuries now, the practice of annulling one's future vows to the holy remains a source of disagreement in the Jewish community even to this day. The reason that this declaration is so important as part of Yom Kippur, most would say, I think, is that it's very bad to break a vow to God, very bad to break a vow to ourselves. And therefore, we annul our vows in advance to avoid breaking them. As Rabbi Richard Levy teaches his rabbinical students, he says, there is a desire in all of us to make promises, but the forces that lead us to make promises are the exact same forces that prevent us from fulfilling them. And this seems especially true for me when I think about the types of vows we make to God. And I'm particularly speaking to us here in this congregation, who many would identify as atheist or agnostic in this room, right? We maybe don't believe in God or are unsure if we believe in a God. And that's why I think especially those words might speak to us, because even those of us who don't believe in God still sometimes make vows with God or bargain with God. And we do this for a few reasons. This happens for impulsive reasons, like we are late for an important appointment and we can't find a parking spot. And so we vow with all of the religious fervor our atheist hearts can muster that we will never flip off another driver again if only a parking spot can open for us just this once. I'm looking at you, First Unitarian, and hoping that some of you have done that, because I have certainly done that. These are the same, making that impulsive vow to God is the same reason why we flip off another driver who cuts us off the second we pull out of that parking spot a little bit later, right after that important appointment. Or we make more serious vows to God or bargains with God, the God that we are not sure we believe in, because a loved one has received a diagnosis of terminal cancer, and we would truly do anything in the earthly or spiritual realm just to keep them alive, just to make it all go away. Our science-trusting hearts struggle to accept what science tells us is true when it is too heartbreaking to bear. And so we make a promise to God in a time of devastation, only to forget our promise if we're one of the lucky ones whose loved one goes into remission. We give thanks for chemo and for immunotherapy and for luck instead of fulfilling whatever vow we made to the holy. Even those vows to the holy, those vows to ourselves that we truly, deeply mean with our deepest resolve, our vows to quit drinking or smoking because we see what it is doing to our family, our commitments to devote our lives to working against racism or environmental sustainability, our vows to change a pattern in our lives that is causing harm. Even these vows are often broken. We might relapse, or we fall short of our own ethical standards. We don't sacrifice as much as we could for what we believe. Our generosity gets edged out by our selfishness. Yom Kippur begins with a laying down of all of these promises before we even make them, knowing that try as we might, we will fall short of fulfilling them. As Jewish poet Marcia Falk writes in her book, The Days Between, on Yom Kippur, individuals seek to enter into a new year with a clean slate, released from unfulfilled promises that are made to the holy and to themselves. And so she writes in this is her new version of the Kol Nidre. All vows, all promises and pledges that we have made to ourselves that no longer serve for the good, may their grip be loosened, that we might be present of mind and heart to the urgency of the hour. This version, she says, recasts the Kol Nidre as a different kind of preparation for prayer. At the onset of Yom Kippur, we seek to be released from the unfulfilled and unfulfilling expectations we have of ourselves, so that we might be fully receptive to what unfolds. Or as my UU colleague Mark Bellatini said in our reading this morning, let's set it all down, you and me. The disappointments, little and large, the frustrations. Let's open our fists and drop them. Let's sink them all like stones in a pool of this gift of silence. And when they're gone, let's lay back gently and float on the calm surface of the silence. Let's be supported in this still cradle of the world, newborn, ready for anything. My friends, is there a promise that you have made to yourself in this past year that has been broken, that you seek to be released from? When we are plagued by conflict and resentment, by anger at those who have harmed us and regret at the harms that we have caused, we find freedom in finding ways towards repair of relationship, or towards forgiving ourselves and each other, towards beginning again in love. That is where the freedom is. And so, my friends, whether you are entering into Yom Kippur services this evening, whether you identify as Jewish, or simply taking some time to reflect on the places of harm in your life and how you might seek repair today as we discuss it in this service, may you begin this way. May you first find release from the unfulfilled and unfulfilling expectations that you have of yourself. May you honor the goodness within yourself and in all of humanity. May you recognize the imperfections within yourself and in all of humanity. And then may you lay down your disappointments and frustrations, your self-doubt and self-pity like hot stones into a pool of cool silence. May you offer yourself a clean slate, that you be present of heart and mind to the urgency of this hour. My friends, may you find freedom in forgiveness. Amen, and blessed be.
Hi, I'm Reverend Hannah Capaldi.
And I'm Reverend Abby Tennis. We are the ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where our mission is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world.
We're so grateful that you watched, and we hope that the sermon connected with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for a live worship service every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can always find the link to that service on our website at www.philauu.org. In these services, you'll hear words like you've just heard, and you also get a chance to greet one another, pray together, sing together, and we even hold a virtual coffee hour after services to get a chance to greet some new and old friends.
If you want to support the mission of this community and you feel moved to give, you can do so by going to the website that Reverend Abby just mentioned. You can find that link below, or you can text 215-709-5095 and follow the prompts to give.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, we encourage you to share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.